All right, what's going on, guys? So, like I said, we now understand basically the purpose of averages. What are they actually doing for us? How are they showing us money come in? How are they also acting across timeframes in reference to our given EVC or any version of an EVC, CCCC, or however many EVCs you want to use, right? In terms of how many timeframes are you looking at to overall create an idea about what price is doing. So, as I said, I prefer to show you some examples because, again, the examples always color everything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm again going to go back into the Mentifex screener right now. Now, again, at the time of you watching this, if it's literally still, November or December of 2024, it might not be extremely fully public to everyone here yet because it might be in beta. Probably by December, if you're watching it like around here, December 20th or so, it'll probably be already done. And you'll have access to this. So then you'll have access to it, and there will be material in the portal material regarding how to use it and what it's doing. But at the moment, it's in beta. So it's only available to a few members that were happy to do the beta and test it and help us work out all the bugs and stuff. But ultimately, all you see here is a few filters applied for something that is over a certain price, has a good amount of volume on it, has percent change that's positive, and ultimately it's just listed right now from this 3-monthly high to lower, right? We can also do it by 1 month from high to low, just like this, right? Now, what I'm going to do is a lot of these have appeared as markets that I've already traded. A lot of you know that I've traded some of these and you kind of seen it throughout the portal material. But what I'm going to do now is I want to show you just more examples in reference to this right now. Just kind of understanding the EVC, understanding what you're expecting across timeframes in terms of moves, understanding how you're pulling away and maybe ignoring some prices during certain periods, and basically showing you how I create a defined model around if I want to trade something or not, right? Because that's very important. And then we're going to go into advanced cycles and everything else that comes with that, and then into labeling. Let me actually write that down. Advanced cycles, advanced labeling. Okay, cool. So let's talk right now directly about the usage of averages across our EVC, across anything. So DJI, Dow Jones Industrial Average, pretty much is the longest standing market in like forever, right? I mean, this thing literally, like I showed you guys, kind of goes back to, Jesus, like 1960, very, very far back. And the approach conceptually is going to be the same no matter what we do. What I'll do is I'll start with a weekly, and I'll just simply click replay, and I'll click right here and go to a random bar because I have premium things set here. So it's perfectly fine. And we'll just start somewhere here. Because again, it doesn't matter where I start, but what I want to do for you is I want to walk you through some thought processes that go off in my head when I look at anything at any given point, so you can see how I use the interaction of the cycles and the interaction of the averages to determine what I'm going to do. So right now, I'm not going to walk you through exact entries. Like, I must take the entry there. It's going to be like this. I'm going to manage it, blah, blah, blah. I just want to walk you through what my mind is doing when I'm looking at something. So if this is the market I started with, and this is all I had, and this is my C, the first thing I'm asking myself is, where am I in a cycle? And am I in a momentum cycle? So overall, flushed out, started to accumulate, moved higher through what I would say was a stage 1 somewhere here, right? Which makes this like an overall accumulation MB of this given cycle. Because again, the way that we judge accumulation MBs is going to differ if we're looking at them at the C and the V versus the E. Okay, so I'm actually going to take an important note on that too, because we will talk about that. Characteristics for VC versus E. Right, so ultimately what I mean is an accumulation MB, or the label of an accumulation MB on a V or C time frame, is going to do with stage 1s rather than a very specific, like, maybe MB. Because what you're doing is you're trying to stay away from a lot of the choppy price, and you're trying to trade and be invested in the clean price. So just like you saw me do on DJI in that 1958, 1960 in those videos, we're going to apply the same kind of idea here, and again go through the EVC to understand when might I be an interested buyer in this given market, right? When would I want to be a participant in this market or other markets that are also bullish? Okay, so this was an accumulation MB. And you're also going to get a little bit of labeling right now. And then you had a little bit of sideways that came to a 5, which means that, again, we are being bought up at a rising 10 and 20 as per what I taught. So this was clearly a momentum MB. I'm just going to label that momentum MB1. Price went higher, did the same thing again, momentum MB2. I did it again, momentum MB3. And then kind of broke down. So again, this might be a breakdown. Maybe it's not. We don't know necessarily yet. But I kind of see this break here as a potential breakdown. And then we had a little bit of sideways. And as price kind of reached above maybe here, like with this candle, this probably put in an accumulation MB. So clearly right now we are in a momentum cycle. We haven't even made a momentum MB. Maybe price wants to pause now and make a momentum MB and then go, or go higher and then make a momentum MB and then go. The way that I would now define this is by asking myself where my V is currently operating, right? So if I look at my V, which would be the daily in this case, right, I can again go through these steps because I already know that the accumulation MB of a context time frame is going to be made up of a breakdown of orders on the validation into new accumulation. So overall, what I see as I move here is that we had quite a bit of chop here, and beyond this point is where I'd probably be interested, but there's still important things to take note of. So when price kind of got above here, I would call that the overall accumulation MB of this like lower time frame. I'll make it a blue as I normally do. And then we went into basically momentum MB kind of 1, 2. So we're momentum MB2. So right now, right, the expectancy that I would have is that it would make the most sense for price to go as it did, maybe pause for momentum MB3, hold up the buying, go for a momentum MB3, momentum MB4, go, and then maybe correct larger, something like this, for a momentum MB1 of a higher time frame. So what that means is if I'm a buyer across multiple stocks or futures or cryptocurrencies or anything, and the general market, so that's what the Dow Jones kind of is, the QQQ, NASDAQ, Dow Jones, US 30, whatever you want to call it, the general market is showing that there is overall money coming in, then we know that things appear to be strong, are going to be in a good market environment to continue to trade up. So at this point, what I would be thinking to myself is, okay, the opportunity is to continue going higher now. So this pause should result in a move higher. Now, as this happens, I know this momentum MB3 that's occurring right now is made up of lower time from accumulation MBs, momentum MBs that are going to lead to a move higher. That's all I know. I know this should continue to deliver, so it should go higher. And it does. And it pauses again. I think this is still momentum MB3, so it should continue going higher. Pauses again, still momentum MB3. But now, what I'm thinking to myself is, okay, we're still good. We can still take off. But if price starts to maybe build a little stage 1 here and breaks down, that could be the reset of this overall and start creating the momentum MB1 of a higher time frame. And that's kind of what happens. Price does kind of break down. So it's likely on a weekly starting to build a momentum MB. And as I look at this, right, what do we see? Well, we see price pause, come to the 5, get bought up. So once again, we have this idea that price is creating a momentum MB1 of a higher time frame on the C, which means that the V should break down and start a new potential move. And right now, it actually looks really good to do that because there's clearly not enough selling to completely break the market, and instead it's setting up for a new leg higher, which means the daily, my validation time frame, should be in a clean enough market condition to do what? Well, it should either pause now and create accumulation or come higher, pause for momentum MB, and start a move higher. That would be my expectation. There it is. As selling comes in, price doesn't want to go lower while the averages are moving higher. Price, so clearly it's being bought up. So the idea now is basically price wants to go on a move higher through this new momentum MB forming right here. Instead, price breaks down. So there's nothing to do. And now I would suppose that we're going to enter a longer period of chop because, well, we're on the downside of price. And we'll see the weekly represent that. Even though there's selling coming in, and even though it's not drastic yet, well, it might want to find itself on the 20, the 10, or the 20. So right now it's a game of waiting. And as the momentum MB is being made on the context time frame, the validation time frame is going to be doing what? Again, I haven't studied this price action. This is literally what, 2013, right? I haven't studied this action. I'm walking you through how I would view this market to allow myself to make the choices of if I should put money on as risk or not. So as that momentum MB is being made, I already know the validation is going to be in a untradable cycle or environment. So I need to wait for this to reaccumulate either here or way later, right? Because that might be how it goes. Because, hey, as we remember, if I make this the daily, but I change this to the weekly, to the weekly and the weekly, I know price can come down into the 20 and get bought up around there. That's perfectly viable. So I'll allow this thing to accumulate. So it keeps doing whatever, and all of a sudden it clearly accumulates out of this point and creates an accumulation MB on my validation time frame. And now, very simply, if I was talking to any person here, I'd say, you know, I'm not going to trade this thing here. There's no reason for me to. But my expectation is that we're going to go into a momentum MB shortly and start to move higher. That's it. I'm following the cycle. So price goes higher. There's not much for me to do. But what's really cool about this is that as we're in a bullish market, other stocks and opportunities in the market that also have money flowing into them might have paused for a nice momentum MB and created an opportunity for you to get long. That is exactly what I look for as a trader, as someone that wants to see an edge. That's why I use a screener to find things that may be good. And we'll talk about the screener later. But I expect this now go into momentum MB. You know, this isn't clear to me, but this is probably now momentum MB1. Still very bullish. I would still be expecting bullishness. Now we are clearly building what I would call momentum MB1. Sells down, kind of getting bought up. This already looks really good. So this is where, like, if price kind of gets above this 16,527 or the high, the expectancy is to keep moving higher. Right? Beautiful pause. Still looks good. Now we're starting to lose ourselves, right? So now we're starting to lose that price. And I would now expect that price needs some time to find itself. Maybe it's not done off the weekly, so maybe now again we go through a longer term sideways and then start to move, or we accumulate here and start to move somewhere here. And that's where I would want to be trading a 65-minute or my entry time frame opportunity. But again, I'm creating a story around this by using the averages within the context that I've provided to you already in the prior videos. So I need to wait for money to now basically come in. So I wait. And money steps back in this case, just at the 20 or under. And now, as selling comes in, it actually holds itself quite perfectly. So in my eyes right now, as long as price kind of maintains itself above here and then moves higher through here, it should start a momentum MB journey to the top side. This is how you can have a simpler system, right? Something like this, if you wanted to have a very like dumb, simple system and nothing more. This is how you could start creating a simple system out of price. And out of the cycles. But again, as you know, I've developed myself to trade within specific moments, right? So again, I would be expecting this to be the momentum MB that's going to start in the event that price now starts moving higher, a momentum cycle, which would mean that right now, I would be more than happy to start watching the 65-minute here for opportunity. Right? Or watching other stocks or other markets that are showing strength for opportunity, because clearly money is coming into the entire market, right? And I would now know that on the 65-minute, this here would be a major flush down below all the averages, very big flush that probably created some large anticipation of a higher low, which means it's a reaccumulation, because that's how accumulations work. That's how money comes in to buy again to continue a move. So everything right now would be lining up for a continuation higher. Right? Starts wicking around, I would stop watching price entirely here. I do not like when price gets choppy. So I would now expect, even though I'm bullish, I would expect this to chop around and maybe start to move a little bit later. Fantastic. Right? And as this fails down, I take a look at the weekly. Well, the weekly actually moves into an untradeable condition, right? It goes into full bearishness. Now, you know, you can choose to trade the bearish side, right? Right now, I would say this is a bearish market, and likely it's going to do something like this, right? And then maybe regain itself later. So you could make money out of the bearish side here. But personally, because I'm looking for big upside potential on anything, because I can do 100% on a move, 200%, which is impossible on the downside, because the downside is only potentially 100%, because, well, you can't go any more. You can't lose more percent than 100% of something. And I'd expect a bearish market out of this. And I'd ignore it for now, right? And I'd still ignore it because I would be uncertain. And now as price reaches beyond this momentum MB and reaches through this, after all of this, I would now expect that we are back in a very likely bullish market. So the question would be, as is a momentum MB, what do I know that's going to mean about the daily? Well, or the validation time frame. Well, that means the validation time frame is going to have gone through some kind of flush, started accumulation MBs, and likely is now in a momentum cycle that I can now take advantage of on a lower time frame. Take a look at this. Here we go. Through here, right? So again, I'm just kind of, and I draw a line, I'm looking at a stage 1. Through here, as we get above all that, we have what I would call an accumulation MB. And now, again, all I would wait for is a pause, a momentum MB to start a move higher. So it starts to pause. It's very drastic. I would want to see this now, over the next 1 or 2 candles, hold up instead of fall off. If it falls off, I ignore. If it holds up, that could be a lower time frame opportunity for a trade higher. That's it. Nothing more to do. The market proves to you it doesn't want to get ready, and that accumulation MB on that lower time frame means nothing, and nothing comes from it. So the reason I'm making this specific portal video is, 1, to show you that I'm doing this with randomized price, completely randomized, but walking you through thought process of a conceptual. But also because I want you to see firsthand how being wrong about your analysis, about what you're doing, does not make you a bad or good trader. And it doesn't actually decide how good or bad you are, right? Because analyzing and getting the analysis right does not matter if you're not taking an opportunity or you're not taking a trade. Notice how I can create an expectancy out of a market, and if it doesn't do it, take a step back and I wait. And we're back in this kind of stage 1, so I wait. All right, chop, 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 nothing to do. And a small move starts out of there. But again, I'm looking at this entire thing kind of as a stage 1, and I'm thinking, okay, right, we probably want to get a move out of this for an accumulation to be true. So I'd wait. And I'd wait, and I'd wait. And around here, I'd say, okay, we're probably back in a bullish market, and I would be considering what is the daily actually up to. And look at this. We just skipped all this chop, right, because of that shit that we saw on the context time frame. So this is how we use multiple time frames to align ourselves. We came now out of here, which is our accumulation MB, came out of this kind of stage 1 nonsense, momentum MB1. This is still momentum MB1, I would assume, because of where they are in reference to the most recent range high that we have drawn by the Mentafex structured indicator, which we'll talk about as well, because it's a way to view what momentum cycle, or where in the momentum cycle you likely are. Okay, so now the expectancy is that we are bullish. This market is likely to continue bullish, and we want to wait for momentum MB2 to trade this higher, or look at other markets that are already coming out of nice momentum MBs that we can trade higher now. That's it. So we wait. Beautiful momentum MB. I'd probably wait for, at minimum, for it to hit the 5 because of the cheat code I gave you. So I would actually ignore this and suppose that price wants to come down a little deeper before starting to move. So I'd ignore it. And beautiful. We get big selling that comes in, right? This is large selling. But now if we can pause a little bit, maybe one more candle. Okay, I mean, this is still okay because we're catching on the rising 20, right? So price made a move. It's not coming down to the rising 10 to 20. This still looks really good. Right now, the assessment is that we are in MMB2. We're making a second momentum MB within a bullish context time frame, momentum cycle. On the validation, we expect that basically if price gets basically above here, right? Basically if it gets above there, that should continue a momentum MB cycle to the top side. That's it. That's how I would approach this. Perfect. Perfect. It's being bought up. The selling is not enough to push it down below this and start distribution. Instead, it wants to go higher. So right now is, again, a phenomenal time to start to position yourself on other things that are bullish, or on this exact asset's accumulation MBs that happen inside of here if they're occurring. Again, I'm not going to go to look for them and look to enter them. I'm just showcasing potential entry for these moves here, because that should start to move higher. This is still part of this momentum MB2, and it's a beautiful pause because, again, it's happening right at, well, in or around the MMB2, but also rising 20, rising 10, rising 5. For me, everything I see right now is that as long as price doesn't do this, this market is going to go like this. That's it. That's as simple as it gets. So this is a time where I want to put my risk onto assets that are showing strength, because it means that if this starts to go and money is clearly coming into the overall market, I'm going to make a fuck ton of money on individual names that could go up 100% during that time. Phenomenal. This is where accumulation MBs would now be forming. Basically, the way you want to think about it, right, is that if price is getting above here, which would be starting to validate accumulation MBs on a lower, price is going to, like I said a second ago, go insane. And we already know that this right here right, is all part of the weekly delivery of that still bullish market, right? This is like the MMB1 potentially of that weekly. So we watch. Oh yeah. I'm telling you guys right now, I don't know what price is going to do, but this is how I approach every single market, how I've predicted markets over and over and over again, and how we create expectancy around our rules. And this should, once again, go into a move, maybe a momentum MB3 if it doesn't lose itself, momentum MB4 if it doesn't lose itself, and then failure. Right? Fantastic. Still momentum MB2 or 3. I still think it's 2 and it still looks really good. Hopefully it doesn't fail and keeps going just like that. Now big move higher. Now again, we're pausing here, and in this case, this range high is very different from this range high. So this is where I would assume that this could be a momentum MB3, but we're still good. The expectancy is still delivery to the top side. It's still holding up very nicely. And then it breaks itself down. And right there, I would stop putting my money behind things, as I would now expect a bearish market to start, which means the weekly is going to start its pullback on a momentum MB. So I want to ignore the daily, or I want to ignore this action right now. And there you have it. This is going to be the weekly sell into the 10 and 20, but in this case, it loses all of it. So once again, we're back into a do not touch this market environment, and I get to sit on the sidelines, right? I get to sit on the sidelines and wait. Now instead, price goes higher and pauses. This starts to make, here we go, a momentum MB. So this is now momentum MB1 of a weekly, which means what? It means the daily is going to be going through likely a flush, because it's going to lead to new accumulations and new momentum cycles. So as I move to the daily, what do we see? We see that chop that we don't have to be interested in. We see that flush happening to and below the 10 and 20. That's that characteristic of, based on if you're looking in reference to the cycle of a higher to a lower, as the momentum MB is made of the higher, we're going through the flush, and this loss of the averages, or coming to the averages, is the definition of that flush, which means new accumulation will happen beyond it. That's our accumulation MB on this time frame, which means now we want to see a momentum MB1 here or a little bit higher, and that should kickstart a beautiful bullish market. And just like that, we skipped over 2 months of action that could have been choppy or unnecessary or a little bit hard to read and predict. So we wait for a pause. Beautiful. And again, the same thing is true, right? The same thing is true now. If we get above basically this point here, I'm in a full-blown bullish and expect these accumulation MBs to deliver. Still looks really, really good. Catches itself just on the 20. Yeah, I mean, this, based on how it's moving, it's probably not going to instantly go, but, that it's the expectancy. I think it's going to start, maybe pause somewhere here, and off we go. All right, so just make another momentum MB within this area, because this is all acting as a momentum MB1 of the blue time frame, or the V. And done. Nothing to do. Now you wait. This is no longer important. The weekly is continuing to build its higher time frame. So let me go ahead and make this the weekly, and weekly. So we know the weekly is still building its potential move. You can see price just came to the 20. So the question is, will the daily right now stabilize and start accumulation MBs, and then give you those moves that you're already expecting? And notice how many times I've been wrong. Being wrong is not important, because being wrong doesn't necessarily lose you money. That's a very vital and important part to remember, because management in your trades and then taking the trade itself is the thing that actually affects you, right? The analysis does not. The analysis is there to tell a story and then make the story worthwhile to follow. Otherwise, you just simply sit on the sidelines. So right now we need this to basically go into accumulation, or it's very likely going to do what? Just going to break down and lose itself and just go and chop around for a while. And there's nothing for us to touch probably for a long time, because the weekly will now no longer be in a momentum cycle. Let's see if we can get that. Beautiful. So it does start to support itself off that 20. Let's see if it goes sideways and gets above like this point. It looks like it's losing it, and that's it. The weekly is going to go into a cycle that's not worth touching. And there you have it. You have your first whatever bear market, right? And it doesn't matter to us. We expect this bear market to do whatever it wants to do. And all of a sudden, price goes higher, right? It goes back into bullishness. We expect an MMB1 kind of happening here. Let's let the 5 catch up. 5 catches up. Price just sells down, so I'd ignore this. And now we're making a beautiful, beautiful recovery. So as I go over to the right here, what do we see? Price breaks down. Price goes into an accumulation MB. Expectancy is momentum MBs to continue this move higher. If we get above here, the expectancy is bullish action, which means right now we could be forming the potential for 65-minute or entry time frame accumulation MBs. Let me show you that right now. Maybe we'll do an example. Right, there we go. The expectancy is different for what we expect. Price should be flushing out to the 10 and 20 or under, which is what it's doing right now. And now it should build beautiful accumulation MBs that we can take advantage of. Now instead it fails down. And again, there's nothing to do. The expectancy doesn't play out, instead it breaks down. And again, notice this. I can be wrong so many times, and yet it doesn't affect me in any way because I have steps that I'm ensuring and taking for myself before I take an actual opportunity or consider opportunity. All I'm trying to do right now is show that analysis creates the potential for opportunity. So I wait. I wait. And finally, we kind of come out of this little stage one that's being built, accumulation MB, and now we're pausing on rising averages through momentum MB, same thing goes. This is likely an MMB1, and now the expectancy is set. MMB2, MMB3, right? I know what I want to see for a move that's going to be worthwhile to trade. And it's lost. And let me show you. Again, same thing. Yes, it's lost, but you never had an opportunity for an entry. You never had the buildup of a double MB to take an opportunity on. You never had those accumulation MBs come in for you to take potential trades, because you now have a process that defines for you whether something should be tradable or not and whether you should put risk on it. And if it fails, then it fails and there's nothing more to do. This is the beauty of process and EVC. Same thing again. Absolute perfection. I'm assuming the 65-minute now is probably building accumulation MBs and momentum MBs. Take a look at this. Now I would have taken this, right, in all honesty. So we can take it here or here. Like you can preference-wise do this. And again, wait for break even. Okay, it looks like it holds on, which is perfect. Exactly what we want to see. Now if we got stopped out, you could just buy stop through here, but now you move your stop to break even. Okay, and the expectancy, once again, is that this is the momentum MB1 of this move. And what should happen? Well, price should go into a move, momentum MB2, into a move, momentum MB3, into a move. Maybe it does it a little bit differently, but that's the expectancy, right? Momentum MB2 or 1 still. I'd probably say it's still 1 because it's still under the same house that it's being built, or the same range that it's inside of. Looks like we're good. Right, momentum MB1 gets built. This is probably still momentum MB1. I'm waiting for a 2. Maybe this could be 2. We'll see. That's probably 2 or 3. Yeah, I would say this is 2 or 3. Very clearly. Wait for it to now find itself, and then it should go higher. We can call this momentum MB2 as we wish. And it just falls off and loses itself again. Great. Now, again, this is not the trade that you'd just be holding on to, right? This only goes about 5 RR, but that's not the purpose of this. During this time as well, what's very important to remember, during this time right here, you might have markets that just go fucking wild, right? That go insane and give you insane opportunities to take a lot of capital out of the market. But nonetheless, this is how I would expect that move. And as it fails here, same thing is true. I'd expect this to be a failure down, and I'd wait for new accumulation. I'd wait. Starts at accumulation, same thing happens here, expecting this MMB to start delivering price. This is now the MMB1, get rid of this one. Should move, same MMB1, this should now build accumulation MBs on a 65-minute, right? Because even though it's a momentum MB, it's going to be part of the accumulation MBs of a lower time frame. Does it build it? No, it just falls off. Great. And again, you go through this step by step and you start realizing that most of what you're doing is actually getting the analysis wrong. But when the analysis is right and the rightness of the analysis lines up with an opportunity for a trade, right, that's where you make money. So as you're looking at something, once the analysis of what you're expecting, same thing, MMB is forming, okay, and it's doing it well. So I expect accumulation MBs to form. As I step down, do I see accumulation MBs actually forming, or does it not form them? It does form them. Okay, I should take an opportunity on this. So, and then at the same time, what's the overall market doing? Let me show you all. I even have this analyzed too. Well, the weekly has gone into a momentum MB, which means the daily broke down. The daily held itself up by making a new accumulation, made a momentum MB this week. So the expectancy already, as you can see by my arrow here, is that we are bullish, which means I'm more than happy to get myself behind things that have been proving to be bullish, like this with a lot of strength, something that I found through the screener, which you'll learn how to do. So as the same things are true, which is the weekly is in a bullish cycle, right? Accumulation MB, momentum MB, it's now delivering. And the daily has proven that it's also delivering through the fact that we have accumulation MB that had failed into momentum MB, momentum MB. This is still part of this momentum MB, but it's clean. The selling is not losing anything. It's being bought up. Everything is proven to be bought up. So I expect accumulation MBs. And if they happen, which in this case they did, I put my risk behind that trade, right? Beautifully enough. And this is exactly how I'm using the purposes of the averages and the EVCs across the EVCs, the momentum cycle and the entry cycle, to act as their own barriers to entry. They're barriers to taking on risk. And then beyond that, I have other barriers that prevent me from losing money, like stop losses, like the management on any trade, like partialing into a move, like making money even when I'm wrong. So what you have now is you start to recognize that a lot of what you do is you wait for opportunity. And when opportunity becomes clear, you take on risk given that the opportunity continues to exemplify itself through the orders coming into the market, right? And you do that by looking across multiple timeframes, EVC, to decide if it's worth to continue taking on opportunity or not. And as a result, you get to see firsthand how the averages work in tandem with each other, even when price maybe fails below them, because you're using them across the EVC, not across one given time frame. So when the context time frame is in a momentum cycle, you know the daily is going to be in a momentum cycle that once it might complete and breaks down, that's only creating a weekly momentum MB that's going to lead to the daily to go into accumulation MBs, momentum MBs, and start another cycle that can be an opportunity for you to make money. And the more things you have access to, the more things you potentially are watching, the more opportunity you actually open yourself up to in terms of making money. This is the beauty of trading. This is how edge works, right? Yeah, and now we can get into advanced cycle material, and we'll go from there. And just so you guys know, so you don't scare yourself, it's just going to be this made better understood with better diagram, basically. Okay, let's do it.